Should I should log in from here too, right?
If you're gonna want to share something.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and to do that, you just need to turn your mic down off.
All right,
Yep.
and then once you join,
your
just
sound.
make sure your audio
Okay.
and visual are turned on.
The recording has started, Jenna.
Thank you. Okay, it is November 17th. It is 1 p.m. and we are the Land Use Review Board. This is a meeting of the Land Use Review Board. I am Janet Hurley, the chair, and next to me is
Sarah Had, good afternoon.
Alex Weinhagen, just finishing my lunch. Good afternoon.
Brooke
Brooke Dingledine, hello.
and Kirsten.
Kirsten Sultan.
Thank you. We are all present. Any changes to the agenda from any board members?
No.
Okay, and do we have any public attending at this time? It looks like no. So C, we have no public comment on non-agenda items. D, item D is consent, review and approve of the October 23rd and October 27th meeting minutes.
I'd like to make a motion, but with the October 23rd as amended, I sent something out last week. I'll make a motion with that change to approve both sets of minutes.
Okay,
Second.
thank you, Alex. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. All
So,
those in favor?
um,
Oh, go ahead, Kirsten.
sorry. There was one other minor correction to the October 23rd meetings. There was a typo in John Groveman's name. The second time it appears in the October 23rd document.
Okay,
And Sarah,
Okay.
I apologize. I'm looking for your minutes and I'm not, or your edits and I'm not seeing them.
They were sent some time ago, Kirsten.
Let me email them again to you here.
Thank you so much. Sorry.
No problem. They're on their way to you. I can share a screen though. I could.
yeah, maybe do that.
Okay.
quickly. See those, Kirsten?
Yes, thank you so much. I'm good with those changes. Thanks. Still not finding the email, which is so strange, but thanks for sharing it here.
The original email was sent on November 9th, if that helps you find it in your bucket, just for curiosity.
And let me just add the correction for John Groveman's name is that I put an H in John and it's just Jon, if we could correct
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Just found it in my junk email folder.
Oh, and you're junk.
Okay.
Randy will second it.
Maddie, go ahead.
Just throwing out there, the language that you just shared, Sarah, is actually for the November 3rd minutes and not the October 27th minutes. So I put that in the November 3rd, but those aren't on the docket for today. So
Oh,
just want
okay.
to flag that.
Thank
Okay.
you for being so on top of that, Maddie.
Thank you.
So it sounds like the only change we have then to
Is
October
John's name.
23rd and 27th meeting minutes is John Groveman's name.
yes,
Okay,
okay,
I'm happy to have that correction made.
Absolutely.
all right, any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Brooke, can you repeat?
Aye.
Thank you. That is unanimous. Those minutes are approved as amended or corrected. Operations, budget, legislative updates. We have a draft policy for the prioritization of housing projects. And I will note that what got posted on Friday was actually a previous version. We worked on this together with council and have a more recent version to present. So I can share my screen. Here's the meeting. And show both of these. Oh, couldn't share. Why not? Because do I need to use my camera?
No, you don't. You should be able to share.
It wouldn't let me.
I can share.
Okay. With the updated?
Yep.
Okay.
Everybody see that?
Yes. So, the changes from what was posted on the website involve just the the prioritization paragraph and list below.
Can you scroll down to that?
Yeah,
Please?
so section heading. Maybe that shouldn't say section heading either. It should say housing
Right. Correct.
prioritization.
That's an oops.
Um,
But yeah, just to be clear, what's posted on our website is an earlier version that has 5 numbers 1 through 5 in this section of 0.200.
Yeah.
And so what's on screen is the correct, more up-to-date version.
Yes. So I just noticed this section heading. We should give it a name and maybe project prioritization or housing project prioritization. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Let's see, Rebecca is on, but not Jenny. So
Yep, I'm here.
can you make a note that we want to give the part 2 there a section heading of housing project prioritization?
Housing project. And that's in, so this number period 200. Okay.
Yeah,
Yep, got it.
yeah.
Don't we want to change the number symbol as well?
Well, so we need to assign it a number. I think that's something we can do. We don't have to do it
Right,
as a policy.
right. We can direct staff to
Yes,
fix that as well, but it
Yeah,
is something that needs to
assign
be
it.
fixed.
either number 1, 2, 3, something. Yeah. So, in any case, the, this is proposed. Is there discussion on it before we consider adopting it by board members?
I'm just skimming it one more time to make sure
Okay.
we didn't miss another oops.
Okay,
I just had one minor item.
and what's that? Kirsten?
Down in section 2, if you go back down to that, the main sentence reads a little funny to me. I think we might strike the words project applications in the first instance. Just district staff commissions must prioritize for timely processing, review, and decision, any application for a project that involves blah, blah, blah. I think it just,
Yeah.
it's sort of, there's a
Yes.
redundancy there it reads funny to my mind.
Unnecessary. Yeah, it's an unnecessary redundancy. I agree.
Yeah. So maybe strike the words
Yeah.
project applications in the first line would be my suggestion.
Okay, thanks. Rebecca, can you make a note of that?
I'm on it.
Great, thank you.
I think we can still have discussion, but I'd like to make a motion to approve with with those two modifications, the numbering and the deletion that Kirsten just provided.
And the section heading.
Those are the two, yes.
Okay,
Well, yeah.
numbering,
Yes,
we're gonna.
Right, numbering
that
slash
worry
section
about.
heading, yes.
Yeah. So, okay,
Yeah, I'll second that.
okay.
So for discussion, in section number 0.100 legal standards, it quotes from the executive order
Mhm.
To prioritize residential housing, including mobile home and shelter applications for review. Then it says section 2.3 provides. That's from the executive order as well?
Yes.
Okay.
You want to clarify that, section 2.3 of the executive order?
Nope,
Okay.
nope, I think it's clear enough. I just
Okay, yeah,
had a momentary brain hiccup.
okay.
So, yeah.
Any further discussion? Okay, let's vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you. Next on the agenda, the Rutland Regional Planning Commission pre-application response. I do
That
need to share.
operation-
Yeah,
Budget,
before we,
let's-
before we jump topics, if I might just jump in real quickly.
Sure.
Yeah, so just on the legislative, front on that, area, I did reach out to the, committees of jurisdiction. I checked in with, Brooke on that, just to let them know that the appeals report is likely to be, a few weeks late, and we'll get it to them as, quickly as we possibly can.
I actually reached out as well and said that it
Oh,
would
great.
likely get there by the end of the week, but maybe not. We'll see.
Yeah, hopefully we can exceed that, right?
under promise, over deliver.
He likes to be the hero, not the. Don't have to
Okay,
beg again.
The, what's my agenda?
You want me to share it?
No, I have it somewhere. Just.
Anything else,
I'll
Pete,
just,
under
I'll be
operations?
filler for a moment later. We did, have the, return to office, discussion with the Springfield office. Those discussions with, staff have been very helpful, I think, in terms of, the return to office. And we've got another one in Essex at the end of this week.
I'll just note that security was a pretty major issue in the Springfield office. Safety, feelings of safety and security. And I suspect that that same issue may come up for the Essex office.
I missed the meeting in Springfield. Apologies. Was there some specific aspect of the building, the physical infrastructure that led to the safety concerns?
Oh, there were some questions about whether various safety technologies worked, like the video, what do you call them? On the front of the building, and the buzzer, you have to be buzzed in, but there's no intercom. So, and just a history of violent actions around the building. So there's also a lack of accessible spaces and certain maintenance issues in the building, but yeah. So leadership will follow up with BGS on that. On those points.
Okay,
Video recording in front of the building,
right.
though we heard that it is working now. I think Pete Kopsko noted that it was working, but we'll confirm that. Anything else under item E?
Not for me, thanks.
Um, okay, if nothing else, let's move on to item F, Rutland Regional Planning Commission pre-application response letter. I do need to share my screen for this one. Let me see if I can do that.
I can also share if that's easier
So-
for you.
Well, I need the document that I have open. So let's see.
Right, if the document is what you shared with the board for.
No, it's a
different-
redlined version of that.
Okay, gotcha.
So let me see. Get that. Yep. Okay. So to start, this first part is sort of a conflation of two issues, 4348 A in parentheses, not to be confused with 4348 A with no parentheses, is about whether the region or how the plan was developed and whether it allowed for participation by municipalities and the public. And so so I have referenced that language here at the top, rather than the little question that I asked there, and then modified the response a little bit. The equity analysis and component is really part of goal 15 under 4348A. So I took that out of this section and just left the issues that discussed the outreach plan in general, rather than whether environmental justice communities were particularly addressed. So it's much simpler. It's just this paragraph here, starting with each chapter in the plan and ending with this statement that the board concludes that the plan was developed with the participation of its member municipalities and provided for meaningful participation to communities throughout the region.
So
And
the
then-
equity language that we read in your first draft
Is in,
it's
it's
just
under,
been moved.
it's moved to
Okay,
goal 15, yeah. So, any questions about that?
So the draft that's posted along the agenda is prior to these most recent red line strikeout
Yes.
edits, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
These edits were made this morning.
okay. I was just trying to make
but-
sure I'm following where we
And
are.
it's just, I've been struggling with how to put these two pieces in a response, and Rebecca and I have been working on it, and Rebecca has helped me clarify the distinction between the two, and the response letter will make that clear. So this proposes that the board concludes that the plan was developed with the participation of its member municipalities and provided for meaningful participation to communities throughout the region pursuant to this section in statute 4348 parentheses A. So are you good with that? Board members?
Yes.
Nods all around. Right.
I had no comments on part A to begin with, so your changes to it seem to have moved things to different places, but I didn't have any comments to begin with, so.
Okay.
Happy to-
Okay, and
happy to
then
move to part B.
part B, so state planning goals. So we go through each goal one at a time. I've made a couple of wording changes that are just, to sort of be more concise with the wording, but no changes really to what you saw. Goal 1. No changes. Goal 2, no changes. So if you have questions about any of these goals, just stop me as I go through. Board members, goal 3,
Can I just get
yes,
clarification on the basics? So
yes,
the way you've structured this, you list the goal. There's some narrative talking about how the plan addresses the goal.
yep,
And then there's a statement that says whether it's
yes,
consistent with the goal, that's
Yeah.
sort of at the end, and then beyond that, there's something in bold underlining that gives like a suggestion.
yes,
So under goal 1, tell me if I'm reading this right, you're basically saying the plan is consistent with the goal,
mhm,
but we have a helpful hint for
yeah,
how you could, make it a little bit better even.
yes.
Not that it's not consistent, not that we
Correct.
wouldn't confirm it. It would meet the test, but here's one thing you could do to maybe address a minor issue or make it a little better. Yes?
Yes, that
Okay.
is what I'm suggesting.
I like that setup. And as long as the receiver of this understands that the bold underlining is just a suggestion and not
Yes.
a statutory problem, that's the only thing I would suggest
Right,
making
and-
clear.
And in the response shell, I think it'll be even clearer because I will underline bold the statement instead of the suggestion. The statement, the plan is consistent with the statutory goal and compact centers surrounded by rural countryside instead.
That would be great. I think that's the one to emphasize because it's saying you've passed that,
Yeah.
but we still have a suggestion for you.
Yeah. All right, goal 2. With these and other strategies articulated throughout, the plan expresses these statutory economic development goals. There's one little point here is, we noted that something needs explanation in terms of some, a discrepancy between some figures. Here's,
So, a couple sort of overall things. I know we're right into the detail already, but I'm just wondering, is anyone there from Rutland Regional Planning Commission in the room?
yep,
Okay. And are we going to, is this our our last crack at this? Or are we also going to be
Yeah.
having another
meeting
opportunity
on
to make any final
Thursday.
tweaks to this on Thursday?
well, I'm
guess
hoping no
depending on-
final tweaks on Thursday. I'm hoping I will make those tweaks and we will approve it on Thursday
Okay,
so that it can be
Okay,
delivered
that-
on
I just-
Friday.
wanted to confirm
Yeah.
that's still the plan. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, so, again, another suggestion, to, explain these statistics that seem not to make sense. Goal 3, the plan is consistent with goal 3. Another suggestion, consider elaboration of online training opportunities as a means of educational service delivery to rural and dispersed populations. And consider noting the presence of Vermont State University in Rutland and Killington. Goal 4. The plan is consistent with goal 4. Another suggestion, with expected Act 250 exemptions in Tier 1A and B areas, consider including more detail on how regional transportation planning will be coordinated to provide proactive solutions to transportation impacts of growth in these areas.
So can I stop you on
Yep.
that one, Janet?
Yep.
This is an issue that came up for me in my municipal work time and time again, where residents would say, we like the smart growth. We understand that the village area is the place to grow, but transportation has always been an issue and it's only going to get worse. I don't remember from the Rutland plan to what extent they acknowledge that very common conundrum. Your suggestion is, speak a bit more about, with more detail about how you're gonna coordinate proactive solutions. Do you see there being proactive solutions beyond the normal things that are in the transportation plan? Are we telling them to do the impossible? Or-
Sarah, do you want to speak to that? Since this is one of your.
So I
suggested-
Kirsten, feel free to jump in because I think what was coloring my
Yeah.
experience was some of the Act 145 discussions within Act 181. So within Act 250 right now, V-Trans can comment on applications and sort of proactively try and help municipalities identify transportation systems impacts. And I think as a result of that combination, V-Trans and others are realizing that they need to be more proactive and not necessarily get on the permit, but more on the planning. And so I think there's some concern at the state level of, particularly with these tier ones, where you're not going to have Act 250 and V-Trans is kind of lose its seat at the table and the ability to assist municipalities. And I think that the RPC can offer some language to sort of recognize that and help better support municipalities in terms of planning for the growth. You're right, it's a little bit of a holy grail, but I think some just reinforcement language is recognizing the situation that we're in and the level of support needed might be helpful.
So that's a really helpful clarification. That's not how I read this. I didn't read that meaning into it when I first read it. What I read it as was with expected exemptions in tier 1A and 1B areas. And then I started adding words in my head like you're going to see more development, more, concentrated growth in your downtowns. So you better think about how those downtowns will function. What you're saying is more specific than that, which is without Act 250 review, you're going to lose some ability for transportation players like V-Trans to enter into that conversation and help municipalities address those issues. So maybe there's a way to rephrase this a little bit to highlight what you just said.
How about that? Without Act 250 review and expected, sorry, in tier 1A and B areas, consider including more detail on how the RPC can assist municipalities.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't really want to do a lot of wordsmithing in our meeting, but I guess what I would suggest is maybe starting the sentence with consider including more detail. So get rid of the first part. You don't have to make the change now, Janet, but just think about get rid of the first part. Start with consider and end with, instead of in these areas, say in tier 1A and B areas.
Okay, I'll work on it.
Yeah. It's basically a suggestion that's specific to those areas alone.
Right.
To
Right.
do the Act 250 exemptions. And where my brain went to, the kinds of things that the RPC could help a municipality do are things like an official map and capital planning and budgeting around necessary infrastructure upgrades related to that official map. So I don't know that you need to say that specifically in here, but if I was RPC reading that, like maybe a little EG and it has a couple of those examples might get their brain turning on the kinds of things that they could include in the
Mhm.
plan.
Okay,
Kirsten has.
Kirsten?
I just wanted to say, I think Sarah said it well. I would also add that with the tier 1A exemption and exemption of up to 50 units of housing in tier 1B areas, the issue is not just that AOT can't, participate in an Act 250 process. It's also just that there can be project impacts for which, you know, there's no longer an Act 215 mitigate mechanism to mitigate transportation impacts. So there's you know, arguably an increased need for that kind of support to municipalities to help ensure that transportation impacts can be addressed.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to send you a suggested word. I agree with Alex. I don't want to sort of wordsmith all this here now, but I'd be happy to send you maybe a suggested
Yeah,
tweaked
that'd be great.
wording, if that would be okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Yeah. Any of that making sense to you, Stephanie?
Just
observing. Okay. Goal 5. I think don't make a definitive statement of whether goal 5 is met here, do I? And I think it's because goal 5 says to identify certain things that I wasn't sure the plan identified specific fragile and significant natural communities. So so I asked that they consider showing those.
So it might be important then somewhere in this section to say clearly that this is there's a deficiency in the plan with regard to this goal, and changes are necessary. Something like that. So they know that they must do something and not just,
Yeah,
it's not just suggestion on our part. It's more than that.
okay. So
And I don't know of the 3 that you highlighted, which are in fact necessary in order to conform, and which are just suggestive, but one is regarding more inventory and context for regional historic landscapes district structures. One is revise the natural resource chapter to explicitly identify significant natural and fragile areas and have a map. And then the last one is related to adding details about how the RPC and municipalities can effectuate the preservation and protection.
yeah, and I think that last one is just a suggestion, but
That's how I read it too, Janet.
But the other
first
2
2 are sort of like
are
you
more-
need to address these, and the
Yeah.
last one is advisory.
yeah. Right. Okay, so this next one, goal 6. This was a little messy and I clarified it this morning. So that first sentence that struck out is because it's a repeat of what is in statute, and the response form will have that right above the paragraph. And the second part is just a paraphrasing rather than a quoting of the policy and the action that are referred to. And then I say the plan is consistent with goal 6. Kirsten has your hand. Go ahead,
That's good.
Kirsten.
Just a quick question about the overall formatting. And again, this is not specific to this component of the draft response, but just do you anticipate that you will be putting this document and content into the new format prior
Yes,
to, okay.
probably.
I know you had
Probably.
mentioned you're working on that.
Yes, probably
Okay.
it'll be done by tomorrow. And so it will be ready for posting on the website for Thursday's meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Goal 7. The I think the plan clearly meets goal 7, and there is one suggestion here, and that is to provide analysis as to why previous weatherization targets were not met and what tailored approaches should be pursued to justify continued weatherization efforts as a primary means of addressing regional thermal energy goals. Goal 8. About recreation. I think the plan is consistent with goal 8. There's one little note here that the plan asserts the importance of providing indoor recreation opportunities on page 203, but goals and measures for addressing this need in future recreation planning, especially for winter activities, are not provided. Consider revising the plan to address this. Goal 9. Agriculture and forest industries. Plan is consistent with goal 9. No suggestions there. Oops. Goal 10. The extractive earth resource requirement there. Goal 10 is met. Goal 11, to ensure the availability of safe and affordable housing for all Vermonters. Thought I made changes here, but maybe not. There is a suggestion to include more reasoning behind using the regional housing needs assessment and the methodology for the municipalization of housing targets.
And this is one where we want to be clear, this is a substantive issue that needs to be addressed, not just something that they could.
Yeah, I mean, you can read between the lines and maybe get there.
Well, I just think that it's for the purposes of this response form to the
Yeah.
RPC, we should be clear on each goal. The plan meets it, and here are some helpful tips, or the plan does not meet it because of this issue. And I
Yeah.
think on this one, you're saying it does not meet it because the methodology, the
It's
reason for
not
it.
explained well
Yeah,
or sufficiently.
I mean, we can debate that right now, whether
Do
others
you-
agree
yeah,
with
I
you.
Do you?
Well, my question was actually related to some language in at the end of the first paragraph, which is at the top of page 8, where it says off-site construction of homes is also promoted to increase availability of units in the region.
Affordability, yeah.
Increase affordability of units. And what does that off-site construction of homes refer to?
Manufactured in a
Oh,
Pre-built.
gotcha.
pre-built, yeah.
Okay, yeah, for some reason, off-site construction threw me, as opposed to say modular construction, but it makes sense now that you just
Okay,
jogged my brain about what
Okay.
that means.
Well, because it's like offsite mitigation, usually that's like the
Yeah.
offsite, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
I was kind of going, where is this offsite that we are building homes for people to live in? And,
New Hampshire.
Right. So beyond that, I agree with you.
Okay.
I do think that the reasoning behind using their own needs assessment instead of the statewide one needs to be clear. And I don't think it is. So I do think this is a sticking point that the plan should address.
Okay. And this is considered again under the housing element. And I'll try to address them both without being too redundant in the final. Goal 12. Anything else on that from anyone else? We'll come back to it when we get to the housing element. Finance and provide efficient public facilities and services. I think this is met. There's a suggestion to provide a little bit more discussion of consolidation of services. But it's just a suggestion. Goal 13, childcare. I think it's met. Goal 14, flood resilience. I think it is met, and there's more discussion of this in the elements section. Goal 15. So this is the relocated stuff from what was on the first page. But the reading of goal 15 is that an equity, an environmental benefits and burdens analysis in terms of environmental justice focused populations should be provided. And the equity analysis that is referred to by the plan is a PowerPoint presentation that doesn't really provide an analysis with results. So consider including details of an equity analysis that describe where regional public environmental investments are made, which geographic areas receive the environmental benefits from those investments, and how much of those investments are provided to environmental justice focused populations. Similarly, describe how environmental burdens are distributed in the region and whether environmental justice focused populations are disproportionately affected.
So,
Kirsten? Oh,
yes,
sorry.
go ahead, Kirsten.
Well, do we think that this work can occur before the new mapping tool is published? I guess, like,
No.
or would
No,
the
the
plan
mapping
be
tool
updated
is
to?
not. The mapping tool is not going to be ready for that before
Well,
the RPC comes back
right,
to us.
I know that. I think it's 2027, right? Like, so
Yeah.
how, like, what would be the expectation for how they will enhance this component of the plan without the tool? Like,
So the
do we
tool
have-
so if we discussed last week at Northwest, they had an equity analysis. There's a model right there. So it's not dependent on a particular tool that the state is going to provide.
Was it your sense, Janet, that the Northwest analysis was decent and
Yeah.
was something that could be modeled here as
Yes.
well?
Yes.
Because I had the same basic comment that Kirsten did. My notes are that I agree the plan could do more to meet the goal. However, it seems we are all having difficulty in
Yeah.
identifying EJ focus populations geographically,
Yes.
which makes it hard to describe whether EJ focus populations are in fact disproportionately affected. If you don't know where they are,
Correct.
how can you assess whether or not?
Exactly. But
But you think the way Northwest did
yeah,
it is a model?
and what they did is they said instead of 1%, maybe 10% would identify those populations for was it BIPOC percentage of population, and that allowed some semblance of an analysis that made some sense, right? So I think different regions will have to make those different judgment calls, but that you can do an analysis.
Right, I think they recognize the census data and the limitations
Mhm.
and the margins of error and went with the 10% as opposed to, I think, the 1% because they said all of their communities would qualify. And so that wasn't really getting at the root of the issue. So
Right.
I think that their approach is something that could be taken and modified to a different region.
Yeah.
And Janet, you said that in the Rutland plan, the equity issue was addressed in a PowerPoint presentation that was like a appendix to the plan.
It was provided at my request. It wasn't appendix.
Okay,
It was not appendix.
because I didn't remember seeing it, and I was just looking at the full draft of the
Yeah.
plan, and I didn't see
Yeah,
it. So
it's in the record in our database, but it's not appendicized, or I guess the word is appended. Word
Right.
doesn't like the word appendicized. think it's a word, but yes, I'm wrong.
Right, but it needs to be referenced in the plan.
Yeah.
If we're gonna rely on it and.
Right, and
but-
it's not an analysis. It's just
Right.
a presentation of what an analysis is.
Right, so your point is, there needs to be some actual analysis, and my point is, I agree, and the plan needs to reference it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, I addressed here, which I had addressed on the first page, whether the RPC reached out to marginalized groups in particular. And it appears that they did, but I think they need to be a little clearer about how they did. So consider including a summary of engagement strategies focused on disadvantaged groups and how the RRPC reached these populations. Consider outlining a plan for routine engagement of environmental justice focused populations as well as other marginalized or disadvantaged groups. Consider clearly identifying more goals, policies, and actions that will be taken by the RRPC to identify and engage marginalized communities in environmental policy and implementation decisions. So those are basically just transferred from page 1 to here. Kirsten.
I just wanted to say I agree with you that it appears that it occurred, but I think some of the statements in the plan, like there, it could be a little bit more specific and clear.
Okay, moving on. Consistency with statutory purposes. In general, the plan does that. Okay. Required elements. Future growth and development. I think it does that. It guides future growth and development. It has a natural resources and working lands element. It has actually both in separate chapters. There is a comment here about clarifying what is depicted on the map on figure 10.12 and what will be monitored. Consider referencing and mapping both highest priority interior forest blocks and highest priority connectivity blocks, which when combined form a connected habitat network. This is something that Alex discussed with the RPC when we had the public meeting here. And does that adequately reflect, Alex, your comment?
Yeah, the importance is to clarify what's depicted and what their vision is for mapping forest blocks and habitat connectors, and the suggestion about highest priority interior and highest priority connectivity is just that, a suggestion. They don't have to do that, but they need to be clearer about what they are suggesting.
Yeah. Okay, and then I noted for this chapter in particular that there were misnumbered endnotes, and I noted it for a number of other chapters as well. So this is just a general suggestion to go through all the endnotes and make sure that they are properly included and properly referenced. Energy, the energy element meets the statutory requirement. Transportation. This is the same, so maybe we don't have to include it in both places, as what we talked about under goal, under the transportation goal.
I would still mention it here, but
Okay.
just reference the earlier section rather than repeating it and
Yeah.
potentially having two different versions. Yeah, it's tough with these statutory requirements for regional plans because there are goals that need to be addressed, and then overall purposes that need to be addressed, and then elements that are basically very similar to the goals. It's a little
And
redundant.
here's another with some redundancy. The plan includes a chapter on public utilities, facilities, and recreational assets that address these requirements. See comments on goals 8, 12, and 13. This element is met. Okay, implementation program. Um, uh, each chapter sort of includes an implementation matrix, and then an appendix includes them all together. There was one comment in that implementation chapter that mischaracterizes Act 250 jurisdiction. So I am just suggesting that it either be eliminated or corrected.
Good catch.
Element 8, compatibility with other plans. There is an analysis of this plan relative to the future land use maps of the adjoining regions, as well as Washington County to some degree. So it's there. And this is just a suggestion to add more discussion and analysis about the employment, recreation, and service-oriented connections between the Rutland region and adjacent regions.
And we saw that in the Northwest plan, right, where they had some pretty good graphics showing
Yeah, arrows. I think actually
employment trajectories and the
There-
like.
there may be a little bit of that in this plan too, but just seemed like the compatibility section could acknowledge that, you know, Rutland has a regional hospital and other, you know, regional draws that draw people in from, you know, all the surrounding areas. So I don't know.
Yeah, my only, I think this is fine as a suggestion. My only concern is that I wouldn't want them to feel like they need to do a very large amount of
Right,
work in
right.
writing
Right.
to honor the suggestion. So
Right.
maybe there's a way you can provide some nuance when you deliver it to them.
Yeah. Okay.
Because
I'm
let's
just gonna make points up.
I'll just keep talking while you type. Let's be clear, especially for Brooke and Kirsten, who maybe haven't looked at these compatibility with other plan sections. In most municipal plans or regional plans that I've read, it's typically a very short section that addresses compatibility. And it's mostly focused on just land use compatibility at the border rather than these sort of regional issues of sending versus receiving areas. So maybe it could be more than that, but that's what I'm used to. So I don't want to hold Rutland to some much
Right.
higher standard. Even though I do think the suggestion is fine.
Well, I think the problem being the first one
So-
in too, is they are still, you're comparing yourself to something that's not yet finalized all around it.
Yeah.
So that's where I
Yeah.
was going with it too, is that's sort of mission
Yeah.
impossible.
It is mission impossible.
Well, but you compare yourself to the plans that are in place today. And those plans do exist, even though they're in the process of being updated.
Well, and they do acknowledge that they looked at the future land use maps of each of the surrounding regions that are in development. So,
Which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an extra step.
yeah,
Kirsten?
Yeah, I think that this was something that was a bit of a head scratcher. I mean, I don't see how we as the board, until we receive those other regional plans from the other RPCs, how can we confirm? Like, I don't think we can, but there's nothing that, you know, we can do about this as this first 11 RPC plan submissions get, you know,
Yeah.
filed
No,
and deployed here. Like, but
So-
I think we have to be careful with what we can or can't say.
right. But what we can say is that the element is there. They included a compatibility treatments.
Statement.
Yeah, for each of the adjoining regions. So it's there.
Yeah,
They included it.
it's that they addressed it and what they said. It's not the specific factual basis of, oh, well, actually, I, as one board member, looked at the Bennington regional plan, and I think you're wrong about that. It's less about that kind of fact checking and more about did you address it and what elements did you cover in terms of how you addressed it, not the specifics of the compatibility per se.
All right, housing again. And this is sort of repeated, so I will take out redundancy perhaps and maybe just refer to this in that earlier goal section,
Yeah, whichever way you want to do it,
I think.
front to back or back to
Yeah.
front.
Yeah. So, why didn't you use the state, which, you know, they talked about a little bit here when we met here. And I was happy with their explanation. It's just not in the plan. Consider,
I'm not sure I'm entirely happy with the explanation because frankly, all the other regions I think are using the statewide estimates and
No,
Northwest
Yeah.
used its own. They used it-
CCRPC is using its own.
really, so it's the other way around. I got it
Correct.
backwards. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so the problem with that, of course, is that if we have statewide
Yeah, what's
policy
the
and
point of it?
goals,
Well,
what, and nobody's using that
I
analysis
think
because it's not, I think the explanation here was, it's too much. It doesn't reflect our historic trends and we can't meet it, so we're gonna invent our own. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I agree with you that the VHFA based ones seem unattainable. But there was a reason why they were set. So, but maybe yeah, go ahead, Sarah.
I was gonna say, I think as long as we wind up at the same place, right? We can take different paths, but as long as we wind up at the same place. And I think, for instance, in reading through some of the other plans that we have under review, is you have some RPCs that have done some sophisticated modeling in terms of what their populations are, where they expect to grow. And I think in terms of how they equitably divvy up their burden of housing too. So I'm fine with variation as long as they explain it and as long as we get to the same point at the end.
Well, and I'll also note that the statewide relies heavily on the ACS data, which is notoriously really bad data, especially in rural locations. So it wouldn't be that difficult to convince me that your regional assessment is probably a better assessment to be using.
Yeah, what threw me, and Sarah, you're more up to speed on this because you're a designee on the Chittenden County Regional Plan. I thought that Regional Planning Commission was using the VHFA numbers, goals, high and low, for that region, and that it was the Regional Planning Commission that then municipalized it and determined what protocol they were going to use to plug those numbers in. But I was under the impression that Rutland Plan, they looked at the overall number for the region and said, that's too high. We're using a different number that we came up with. And that's a different strategy than what I thought Chittenden County was doing, which was saying, we are accepting the state's number for our region and we will decide how to parcel it out. That's all.
I think what you heard from the NRPC was they said, here's a high, here's a low, and here's a mid. And we're going towards the mid too.
Which is what Rutland is doing too.
Right.
But it's from a different starting point, isn't it? It's, I guess I'm confused.
I
I thought
think-
Northwest was also using VHFA's numbers, not their own housing assessment, and they were
Well,
just showing
I
low
think
to
they
high.
are, but they also, so they have their own assessment that informed their methodology, I think.
Okay. Yeah,
And-
don't want to be a stick in the mud.
Yeah.
I just got the impression that the Rutland approach was starting with a different number
It is. It's a-
than
but
the
it's-
other regions
It's a
were
different
starting.
range,
Right.
so. And the range doesn't go quite as high as the statewide.
Yeah. And for the record, I do think that the VHFA numbers are
Unattainable.
unattainable and unrealistic. So
Yeah.
I you know.
And they're a
well,
range. And the numbers that Rutland chose in the end they overlap with the range of the statewide.
Okay, yeah.
They just don't go as high as the statewide.
And I think that comes back down to, in these plans, the population projections and some of the sophisticated analysis that some of the RPCs have done in terms of what they believe based upon their trend lines, their population analysis is going to be as opposed to the ECS population analysis in terms of growth. And I think offering here's the high end of growth, here's the low end and here's where we think we should be. And so I think as long as it's all explained,
Yeah.
I think that's fine.
And this is just asking for more explanation.
Yeah.
Right, not quibbling with
Right,
the different set of numbers, but just
Right.
explain why you use
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
and explain your methodology for municipalizing a little bit more. And then finally, consider some indicators, basically. Tracking the number of perpetually affordable units added as a subset of total. And an indicator, and also breaking it down by housing type. And growth versus rural location. Maybe I should say growth areas.
Yeah, I think that part is super important, in part because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the Rutland plan says that 85% of the new units it deems necessary have to
Affordable.
be affordable,
Yeah,
which
it's a lot.
which is remarkable
yes,
and likely unattainable, but
but it's a good goal.
to some extent, I mean, if it's completely unattainable, then it's not a good
Yeah,
goal. But
yeah.
my comment on that was going to be that it's on page 187 of the plan that it talks about 85% of new units needing to be affordable to lower and middle income households. And it specifically says, in other words, those earning up to 100% of area median income.
Mhm.
That fits the state's definition of affordable housing for ownership housing. It doesn't fit the definition for rental, which is caps out at 80% of AMI. So I don't know if that's worth noting, but I would encourage you to look at page 187 and think, see for yourself.
187.
Yeah, of the
Okay,
plan.
not 5. And Alex, if you have some wording around that you want to share with me, I would appreciate it.
I don't actually. I
Okay.
just have the page reference to say,
Okay.
look at it and tell, assess for yourself whether there needs to be any further clarification, because they address both ownership and rental.
Mhm.
But in the first instance, they give you the range for ownership, and in the second instance for rental, they don't provide that information. So
Okay.
it is separated, but maybe it could be clarified
Yeah.
with that rental 80% of AMI.
Yeah.
And
then there's a little correction that needs to be done on figure 6.7. Or a couple corrections. They're minor.
Janet, I think I would, just to follow up on the first comment, I think I would appreciate it if the plan could address in this section how it will encourage or how the 85% of new units being affordable is going to happen. That just seems so implausible that it feels like the plan ought to recognize that and say that's still our goal. We recognize that it's a very difficult one that's never been met by any region in this state ever. But here's something we hope to, here's how we hope to make it happen, or
Okay.
something like that.
Well, I think that ties in with my read on it was they're placing a lot of emphasis on perpetual affordability. And those are usually units that are somehow grant or federal funds or what have you. And I was saying that I didn't think that necessarily needed to be perpetually affordable, as long as it was affordable, and to give greater explanation. And so I think somewhere in that greater explanation will probably answer your question, my question.
Could be, yeah, and I agree that the way the wording is right now in the plan, it says affordable, it doesn't say perpetually affordable, so I think it's safe to say, it doesn't have to be perpetual according to what they're saying. I just know from, the Chittenden County area, their housing effort over the last 8 or 9 years has been tracking new units, and there's been a goal for new units and percentage of those affordable, and they are falling so far below the goal for affordable. It's
What percentage are they seeing? know?
I think that
roughly.
the percentage was 20%
Yeah.
affordable units, not 85%, and they can't meet the 20%.
Yeah.
So
okay.
how 85% of new units will be affordable? I don't understand how that's possible.
Okay,
And to answer your question on the CCRPC plan before, page 95 of the CCRPC plan. They
So-
developed something between, so you had VHFA gave the high and the low. And I think this is where a lot of RPCs are going to, is they're developing a middle target, and CCRPC is saying that they use that representing a 1.2% average annual rate of housing growth, which then they sort of correlate to the population projections that they did versus
Gotcha.
the ACS. So
Well,
I
and that-
think the ACS is where a lot of people are.
Yeah, well, and that's helpful, and it speaks to Janet's point of the overlap of the ranges, and as long as I feel a little more comfortable as long as it's somewhere in that range. It doesn't necessarily have to be VHFA's high, low, but it would be, yeah, enough said.
okay, just a little clarification here on flood-proofing existing structures in floodplains. Economic development element, it's there, and see comments under goals 2, 3, and 9 for more. And here's the flood resilience element. I think the plan meets the requirement. And future land use. Okay, here's the big one. So I separated out though the elements there with a map, but then we gave particular treatment to each future land use area type in a separate section. And overall, this is just a note that there was an assertion that the mapped rural general areas have soils more suitable for septic systems than soils in the rural ag and forestry or rural conservation. I'm not sure that that is supported. So just asking for more treatment on that.
Yeah, they could be right. The fact that prime agricultural soil is in that designation doesn't always mean that it's the best for septic. It often does, but yeah, wouldn't hurt to just look at the numbers and clarify.
Okay, so let's jump into the map. You ready?
Downtown's first, right?
Downtown centers. 4 downtown centers are proposed. Small extension to the Brandon Legacy Downtown Center to incorporate historic residential properties with a few commercial establishments. I have no problem with that one. Fairhaven. They are trying to get downtown designation before the end of the year, this year. Currently, they do not have subdivision regulations. It's not clear that they will by the end of the year from my looking on their website to see if they've warned any public hearings. So we'll see. I don't have any problems with the boundaries, but
So can you clarify where is the statutory requirement for a downtown center to have subdivision regulations? Village centers definitely do not,
Tier 1B definitely requires them.
but we're not
Right.
talking tier 1B now. We're just
Yeah,
talking downtown
think-
centers.
I think they are not eligible for the designation that they're seeking right now as a downtown without
But-
subdivision regulations.
You mean with the community investment board? Right, but
Yeah.
we're not them and I don't care about that. So
Yeah.
all I'm looking for is compliance with the statutory requirements for a downtown
All right,
center. and
so
then-
Yeah,
Because
it's,
of the
nope,
way
it's actually in 4348A 12 big A. It says downtown village centers have traditional and historic business centers. Village centers are not
sentence.
required to have public water, wastewater, or subdivision bylaws. So it says downtowns, the converse of that says village centers are not required to have public
Right,
water,
that's-
wastewater zoning, or subdivision bylaws. So means
It's
that
in-
downtowns then do.
It's
and
inferred.
And that's my problem with the statutory
Yes.
construction.
Yes,
Is that,
mine too.
inferences should not be there. It
Yes.
should be clear. And so part of me wants to say, I think you're wrong, Janet. I don't think they need those regulations in order to qualify as a downtown center, but I understand your interpretation of the statute. And
I agree
certainly that
with
was,
you about that construction. It shouldn't just be inferred, but I think it's clearly inferred.
okay. Well, at the same time, it doesn't matter whether the Fairhaven Select Board adopts these things by the end of the
No.
year. They need to adopt them before the
yes,
RPC comes
and-
back for a final,
And
so,
we point that out in the tier 1B section.
yeah.
So could Pete or somebody put a pin in this under 43, 48A, 12, big A, that could be cleaned up at some point?
You got that, Pete? Are you paying attention? Get your pen and a little notepad? Are you there?
Don't be
Thank
mean
you.
to Pete. Go on now.
Thank you, Pete, for always being there for us. Okay. So Fairhaven,
And can I just make
Yeah,
one more point?
yeah.
Does it really matter? Remind me how it matters to Fairhaven,
So-
whether they're a downtown center or a village center.
it's the community investment program. Because if you're downtown, you have step 3.
And village centers get step,
They start at step 1 and you can only get to step 3 if you have a downtown organization, which is
Right.
also something that I don't know that Fairhaven has yet.
right?
Right, and so this is an area too that could be, is it less than 10 acres, minor map amendment in the future?
Mhm.
And so when they're ready, they could start as a village and then wind up as a downtown. I think that's the idea of the tiers and the steps, as you might see some communities advance.
But again, I have this sense that that there isn't really a difference in the benefit, right? A village center a village center FLU gets a step 1 designation. Moving up the steps from step 1, 2 to 3 is an internal decision by the Department of Housing and Community Development. And they have their own recognitions. They wouldn't need to, I guess what I'm saying is, they wouldn't need to come back to us to flip from a village center to a downtown center to have access to step 3. Couldn't they get that step 3 as a village center as long as they had a downtown organization and met all those requirements?
Yeah, I mean, that's the, it's just part of the sloppiness of the statute and the way that 139 speaks to 117 and speaks to Title 10, because the, and that they describe downtown and village centers in the same paragraph and
Right.
and, so, does that mean there's really no difference between them? Well, they say that village centers don't have to have, right? So it's just not, it's not crystal clear.
Yeah, I guess what I'm thinking is that for Fairhaven's benefit, if they're unable to
Yeah.
secure a downtown designation from the Community Investment Board by, soon, and
And it's still
And
mapped
we're-
as a downtown
and we're not,
center. Who
and we're not
cares?
willing to give, no, and we're not willing to call them a downtown center from an FLU standpoint, then they could be a village center and
Oh, yeah.
likely acquire all
Yeah,
the same
I see what you're
benefits.
saying.
It's not it's not a ding on them.
Right. All right, Pulteney. So 3 small extensions to the Pulteney Legacy Downtown are proposed to include adjacent business and mixed-use areas. And this is a general comment, is to include additional blocks to the north and south to add depth. There seemed to be a reluctance to add depth. And I think that we want to see depth to these areas. So,
Especially because they probably could not have added depth under the old legacy
Yeah,
programs.
yeah.
But we have the ability
Yeah.
they have the ability to go further now, so they ought to grab it.
yeah. Rutland City, where we now sit. Legacy Downtown Center is proposed to be extended to the west and east with a smaller extension south and a few additional parcels north. An explanation of why these extensions are proposed is needed. Some of the proposed extensions include areas with industrial patterns of development and the area along Main Street between West Street, which is right there, and Woodstock Avenue, which is Route 4. Has characteristics of strip development that are very pedestrian unfriendly. Explain whether development of these industrial and auto-oriented areas will result in a cohesive traditional walkable mixed-use core, or whether they should be proposed as transition infill instead.
So questions for you on
Yeah.
that. First, just organizationally, I think it would be nice within each of these sections, downtown centers, village centers, if when you went to the numbering, you started with the town name or the municipal name instead of a
Mhm.
small extension to Brandon, like just start with
Yeah.
Brandon. And that way it's easy for the reader's eye to go directly to the municipality that's being discussed.
Yeah,
Beyond that, I don't know that I, as one board member, care too much about why a legacy center is being expanded. It's interesting to know why, but knowing how constrained the prior program was, I'm less concerned about those expansions. If the only reason that you're interested is because they're an expansion, I do agree with you about these specific areas in Rutland City that seem a little problematic from the standpoint of pedestrian, accessibility and the like. So I like the specific comments you made. I'm less concerned about like, it's an expansion and I need to know why.
yeah.
But my other question is, Rutland City is a downtown center surrounded by a planned growth area in its entirety, right?
Mhm.
So does it make sense to have a transition infill area in the
maybe-
middle of a
no.
downtown and a planned growth area?
No,
Or does
I
it
think,
does it
planned
make
growth
sense to just
instead.
turn it to planned growth
Yeah.
area?
However, as I'm looking at the map, there are some areas that when there's a natural like delineation, like the river, that might be like it makes sense that everything on one side of the river is downtown, everything on the other side of the river is planned growth. So I think there are some of those I wasn't too worried about because I was taking also keeping in mind what you said about the previous program being very restrictive and also some of these natural boundaries. It's sort of making sense, even if it wasn't quite up to par yet.
Good to continue?
Yep.
35 village centers in 25 towns are depicted. Here we did this. Benson. There you go, Alex, just what you were looking for. So, and here very generally, again, the RRPC seemed to be reluctant to include whole parcels, for instance, and depth. So
Yep.
you'll see that a lot of this is consider snapping to parcel.
And I would say that I think that makes sense in a lot of cases. Where I've started to notice in reviewing the plans is particularly in these rural villages where you might have like a much larger parcel behind it.
Mhm.
There might be a very good reason. If so, give a reason.
Mhm.
But in the absence of it, and looking at some of these other areas too, there's sometimes like a wetland or something like that that's significant that cuts off the rest of the parcel. But it would be helpful to have more information if they aren't. going
So
down the parcel.
same for Brandon. And I don't know, I'm not 100% behind this Castleton suggestion as to keeping them Hydeville and Castleton Corners separate and surrounding them with planned growth area, but including whole parcels for each. What do you think, you all?
Sorry, I gotta jump back and forth between so many different documents to see what my comments were originally and then to your synthesis. So hold on just a sec.
Yeah,
I think it makes sense for it to be planned growth as opposed to try and make one big, very long, skinny village
yeah,
that looks like it's promoting strip development.
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I
I think
agree.
I might be on the other side of that based on our field trip. I think I like the idea. Um, of acknowledging that they function as one, not as two. And when I look again at the aerial photography and the sidewalk connection, don't they?
No, they don't. They're not connected right now.
So help, sorry, Sarah, can I look at your screen? Can we, can we share your screen or no,
Yeah.
we can't? Cause,
Yeah, I can stop.
okay.
Just a sec.
So I think the
So
key
what are the
thing,
two parts that you two or three want to break apart into two village centers? The legacy ones that are striped?
Maybe small extensions that include whole parcels off those.
Right,
And then
but
that
keeping
whole
those,
middle and more on either side be planned growth.
but if you zoom in on the middle, how is it different from what's on either side? It looks the same to me. It's got sidewalk, doesn't it? It's,
no, so there's
Yeah, it
a
does.
place that the sidewalks,
And
right.
center.
I thought it was on the north side of the road, the whole
Yeah,
stretch.
it's
Oh, wait. Maybe it's over in here that the,
sidewalk ends,
right.
where the sidewalk. ends.
Yes, good old
Center.
Shel Silverstein is rolling over. They're great.
I think Shell would have gone by name.
I'm not sure, so I figured I'd defer. So again, while Sarah's scrolling, I'm just saying, I acknowledge that there is a bit of difference between the two legacy village centers and the area in between them in terms of pattern. The lots are a little bit different, but not enough for me to say that we shouldn't defer to them on making this one large linear village center, with acknowledging that the width of it, north to south, should be bumped out. Like there doesn't need to be a planned growth area that is a tiny 50-foot swath, on the north and south. It could be all village center. But it sounds like the three of you feel like it would make more sense to have that be
Break
planned
it
growth.
and do planned growth
Yeah,
and do a more planned growth than what they're showing.
yeah, I think it's odd to have
Sorry.
a tiny slice of planned growth around
Right, and
and then village area beyond that.
they stop there because that's where the sewer service
Right.
area, mapped sewer service area ends, but to me, it doesn't seem impossible to get sewer service to whole parcels there rather than just parts.
For
Sorry,
sure.
so there are three Castleton villages, and so the first one on the right is not connected to the one in the middle
Right.
via a
Correct.
sidewalk. So that's.
Is that what you were thinking?
Correct.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I'm talking about the two on the
Yeah,
left.
yeah.
And I think your suggestion was that those should be split. There should remain 3 Castleton Village centers. And I'm saying, I like that there's only 2 now. 2 connected on the left and 1 on the right.
So what Sarah said rings true to me, though. It's very linear.
But it is, we were there. I mean, you can't deny
Right,
that.
so,
It was linear.
but the whole point of centers is, trying to add depth to them and plan growth areas around them to add depth and not to have these linear road, to have interconnecting streets.
So I have an idea, but I'd like to hear what Kirsten has to say before I throw out my idea.
Kirsten, you're muted.
Sorry,
Sorry.
I was just gonna say, and I remember this area from the site visit. It's a bit of both, right? To me, it's both linear, but it also lacks depth. So interested to hear Sarah's suggestion for how to maybe recommend some improvements to it. And
So
I
I
think, I mean, in general, if the inclusion or omission of a parcel hinges on like frontage to the sewer service area, like if there's water or sewer along the front of a parcel logically, in my mind, typically would include the whole parcel. If that's the determining factor, and not in all cases, there could be some big parcels, but here I think that seems to be contributing to the lack of depth, which Janet has noted.
But the other thing is that even if it doesn't have frontage, even if the sewer line isn't right out front, if it's in planned growth, there could be a plan to extend sewer, you know?
I
Um,
agree. Yep.
So,
So what I was gonna say is, I don't think that we necessarily need to solve things for people. I think we can leave it at here's what our concern is. Because you have a very linear strip village, and either possibilities are you could break it apart into two, or you could increase the depth to the village. But please address this prior to final, is giving them different options of ways to address this. And I did want to just quickly, you may have seen me toggling on and off. There's flood hazard back here, but there really isn't a good reason why some of these parcels are only partial and not full. It doesn't look like there's
Yeah,
anything back there that would prevent that.
no, it's like Janet said, they told us, I think, even on the
if
site
you
visit,
turn on
it's just the sewer
built
service
and
area.
open the built environment
Right.
thing and turn
But
on.
I will say that I know where you're headed, but for me, one of the problematic things with this viewer is the water and sewer service areas, as I'm looking at Chittenden County, which is up to date, is woefully inaccurate.
Yeah.
And so I hate to turn this on, but yes, I see what you mean. And yeah, I wrestled with it's good to have something to review, but in some ways I'd rather be reviewing with nothing rather than something that's woefully inaccurate.
So
So-
I'm happy with your suggestion, Sarah, but our job is to make sure it passes statutory muster. And I think it passes statutory muster, even though it's linear, because it reflects the reality on the ground. And just because we want village centers to be more of a cohesive circle, square, blob, we can't ignore the fact that there are villages that have been developed and historically have a linear orientation to them.
Right.
And that's what the village center designation is meant to delineate, is where's the historic core with mixed uses and pedestrian connection. And in Castleton, sorry, this part of Castleton, I think it is that entire corridor, not the one to the right over by the college, but
Right. However, the previous version of the program would not have allowed that.
I know, and I didn't like the previous version of the
And-
program, and I'm happy we're
and-
leaving it.
Right, but, and I can see, extended linearity when there are, geophysical constraints that, that's the only place you can go. But when you can spread out, that's, I think, what these designations are encouraging, is to have more depth and more interconnectedness in the core, rather than following main streets.
So I think a few things on that front. This is a future land use map. So this is not the downtown program. This is not current. This is future land use and where we are going to be growing to meet the housing targets. And I think that including only a portion of the parcels and not the entirety of the parcel will lead us to potentially having strip development within these sort of
Yeah,
legacy
yeah.
historic areas. And so I think that's where we can say, met, and here's our recommendations. So I think we can be advisory with it and not necessarily
Yeah.
Pull the full hammer out.
Sounds good to me. And just to be clear, I have no issue with the recommendation about depth. I agree totally that this particular village center planned growth area ought to be deeper. My commentary was just about whether we ought to invalidate their desire to have it be one village center connecting two legacy village centers, and I would like to defer to them on that, based on what I saw on the ground.
Okay. No changes in Chittenden, Clarendon, I'm sorry, Clarendon. I suggested net mapping North Clarendon as a hamlet and rural general. Because there seemed to be so little there. And almost entirely residential in nature. Kirsten?
That makes sense to me. That's consistent with one of my comments.
That's this one.
Sorry,
There are 3 Clarendons.
yeah. Yeah, that's that one.
Okay.
Or wait. Well, it can't be that one because that's legacy, so that's automatic.
So that's the north and that's the south.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
it's
so it's
pretty big
the
too.
northerly most one, which is the largest of the 3, is the one that you're recommending just become a hamlet?
Yeah. So,
Explain a bit more because it has civic infrastructure, has the school right there.
wait a minute, did I get the wrong, maybe I got the wrong town here. I will,
Yeah, my sense was that North Clarendon, the one that I think we're talking about, does make sense to me
Oh,
as a
is it-
village
did I
center.
get them mixed up?
The one that doesn't make sense to me is the legacy one,
Well, yeah,
Yes.
because that's the smallest, and I remember commenting like, if if there
Maybe I
were ones
was
that were a
mis-
hamlet, it would be the legacy one.
maybe I was mischaracterized. I will reassess.
Well, no, that's okay, we can tell you
No,
what to do.
I might have the wrong one.
Clarendon Springs is the legacy one,
Yeah.
according to my mapping, which is the smallest of the 3,
Yeah.
which doesn't appear to have any civic areas in it.
So I know Kirsten has a question, but let me ask a silly question, which is, do we automatically have to give legacy
Yes.
areas?
Yeah.
Yes.
We do. That's-
Even, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
we do. Okay, Danby.
Kirsten,
Whole
Can I ask a
sorry.
question about what
Yeah.
Sarah just? So a number of these communities have these legacy village centers and they're also proposing new ones. And is there any, provision to shift the existing legacy village center to a new location to satisfy this provision that if you have a legacy center, you automatically, qualify under this new designation. Under,
No.
is it, we
answer is
really,
no.
we're sort of automatically have to recognize all of the legacy ones
Yes,
and just consider all of the new ones on their own separate merit
Yes.
and not consider the relationship between the two.
correct.
That's my understanding too, Kirsten, is that we don't have flexibility there. That the statute was written to make sure that those got their continued to have their village center status regardless of what we thought.
Well, and regardless
And
of
that
the
I see.
relationship to
Oh,
new
sorry.
ones that the town is asking for, or that the RPC.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Annette, I see you have a question. Do you want to throw it in to the mix here?
I didn't know if you wanted any local input, but regarding Clarendon, the northern one has the school. It also has the post office. It was sort of the traditional center. Clarendon got pretty disrupted by the Route 7. And then the southern one has the town office. So both of those and a church, both of those have historic and active uses. The northern one also has a community center. I've been to any number of meetings there. So that northern one definitely has a village feel to it. And
Yeah.
then my other comment is to support what Alex was saying in relation to Castleton and in particular because I am very familiar with Rutland County and served on the Regional Planning Commission for more than a dozen years. I am very aware of and sensitive to state level overreach, and the local communities want to be heard and respected. So for instance, at one point, Pittsford updated its town plan and made the entirety of Route 7 into like a village center. And that resulted in a lot of controversy at the Regional Planning Commission. And then it resulted in people talking about actually Pittsford withdrawing from planning altogether. So respecting the local wishes as part of this, unless it's part of your statutory mandate, I just want to offer that because I've seen it happen more than once in Rutland County.
Thank you, Annette. Now to Danby.
Stay with us, Annette.
Yeah.
This is yours.
All we're suggesting is to consider snapping to parcel to include whole parcels. Fairhaven. There's a new South Fairhaven Village Center proposed. I suggest consider one with more depth, including whole parcels and interconnecting streets surrounded by proposed plant growth area. Everybody good with that? Yeah. Ira, no issues there. Killington.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah,
The are the comments that you're making considerations
Yeah.
or requirements?
they're considerations.
Change the boundaries.
They're considerations unless there's going to be an indication that this does not meet statutory criteria.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, and my sense is, I think almost everything we've discussed so far.
Yep.
In my mind, they meet the statutory requirements and we're making suggestions to make them a bit better and perhaps give the municipalities a bit more room within those designations to enjoy the benefits therein. But I don't know about Killington. Maybe we'll have a different answer on
yeah, I
that
think
one.
we might have a different answer on this next one, Steph. So Killington, the proposed Killington Village Center does not conform to a traditional or historic walkable business and civic center. Rather, it consists of a long, narrow strip, mostly along Killington Road, with little to no depth provided for the development of walkable interconnected streets. The town is afforded at least one village center, even without historic features, but it should encompass adequate depth for interconnected development. So I said, consider reconceptualizing the Killington future land use mapping to depict a more compact village center encompassing the Route 4, Route 100 Killington Road intersections with mixed existing and planned commercial and civic assets. That could be surrounded by a planned growth area. And then rather than depicting the very long and narrow village center along Killington Road, consider breaking it into a few broader transition infill areas that would encompass existing and planned mixed use and civic institutions. And then the proposed Killington Seven Peaks development area adjacent to the ski slopes could also be considered a transition infill area. The area currently does not exhibit a pedestrian-oriented traditional and historic business and civic center, and therefore does not conform to a village center FLU area. Thoughts from board members? Okay, let's move on.
No, there's thoughts. I'm just giving space here because I talk a lot. Yeah, so I'm conflicted about this one. Because I would like to give deference to the community and the Regional Planning Commission who are doing the hard work of planning in these areas. And B, because we know that Killington is investing in a remarkable way to revitalize that corridor and to create the pedestrian connectivity that's necessary to have it function more like a village center. But I I don't disagree with you. The linear and skinny nature of the proposed village center designation seems pretty problematic. But again, I'm conflicted because I know that in areas like this, Stowe is potentially a similar case. The sewer service that wants to happen does want to be restricted to a corridor. It doesn't want to be sprawling out with great depth away from the corridor because of the nature of how a mountain road works and the topography involved in a mountain road. So yeah, I'm a little all over the map on this, but I think it's also important to just put it out there that Killington is seeking. They told us at our public meeting that what they really want is a tier 1A designation because they would like the development that they are anticipating to be exempt from Act 250 review. And I think that helps inform, why their village center designation is shaped the way it is. That they really want that benefit across the entire area. And your suggestion about transition infill zones doesn't provide that benefit, right? So I'm guessing that would not be to their.
Probably
Like-
not, but I mean, you can't possibly consider it walkable from the Route 100 intersection up to the ski slope. That is not a walkable center. Even if you do have,
Even if you have a sidewalk.
yeah,
Well,
it's just
what if you're on
stretching.
what if you're on a scooter? What if there's bus service
So-
that stops every 5 minutes?
I think one of the things that I'll reiterate that Alex said is Mountain Road. This is a very different, and I think recognizing throughout Vermont, the various types of different villages that we have. A lot of them have followed streams and water bodies and had their own different sets of problems. But with a mountain road, you have some severe limitations. And sort of the one size does not fit all. Another way that I was looking at this is I think not giving spoilers to other regional plans, but there is a provision where our regional plan could, within their future land use map area, create a different one. Say we have some things that just don't fit within these categories. I think that this might be one of those areas that just doesn't fit very well. Because it's a little bit village, it's a little bit recreation. And question is, this would be a statutory correction, but is this actually better off? I think you have the recreation future land use areas, recognizing areas just like this is to instead say, hey, we need a tweak to the recreation area because that sort of commercial supporting and residential supporting for some of these areas should act
Right.
and function differently.
Well, and also maybe confer exemptions,
Correct, but it
Yeah,
doesn't right now.
right?
it really does seem like it's better suited in that resource-based recreation land use type. I'm struggling to find the civic anchors within this village center that help justify it, or at least the whole of it.
I think this could be one of those areas where we give some recommendations and say, here's what the issue is, identify some different recommendations. I think Janet did a pretty thorough recommendation where you could do planned growth areas and transition areas. And as these areas get built out, they can come back in with a flu amendment to have the transition areas become part of the planned growth or vice versa. But I think,
Go
ahead.
Your whole idea about planned growth areas and whether they need to have a center.
So I was reading a little bit about planned growth areas in 4348A. And the way that 4348A is written is there is a little bit of interpretation. So I'll share with you. It says the area is generally within walking distance from the municipalities or adjacent municipalities downtown, village center, new town center, or growth area. Going back to the Castleton, where you had possibly two villages and linked, could you do something here where you had two villages with a planned growth area between?
Well, the problem with that is that there's no historic center. And while the town is afforded one, from my interpretation of statute, it's not afforded two.
And your interpretation is going off of the steps. So
No,
not
it's
necessarily
going off
yours.
of, oh, well, in terms of every town should have one.
Have
Have the
step one.
opportunity to have one, yeah.
It is a remarkably long distance from their town office to the top of the mountain where the village center ends at the resort. I mean, it's like 4 miles. Or maybe just a bit under. So, yeah, as much as I would like to have deference to the planning that's being done at the municipal level and the regional level, this one doesn't really pass the straight face test in my mind.
Yeah, it's not like Castleton.
Yeah, and the other example I was looking at was just another long linear one that was approved under the prior system that I indicated I didn't like so much, and that's Pittsburgh, which I think Annette mentioned. And Pittsburgh's village center area is pretty stretched out as well. But I don't think
Not
it's
4
anywhere
miles.
near 4 miles.
Yeah.
Just taking a quick look to see how far it is actually.
So you have that northern area with the town office.
Yeah.
I think that was also the area when we did our site visit that they're saying was going to be planned for residential infill off of that over to the east.
Yeah, though I think they're planning residential all over the place, not just there, with bus stops along the way. So, yeah.
But could you segment it into like that northern village and
Yeah,
then
that's
with the
what I
planned
was
growth
thinking.
area?
Around it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think we have to solve it for them, but I think
Right.
we can provide some options. We can identify the issue and
Yeah.
provide options.
Kirsten? We have to move on.
I generally agree with what Janet wrote here. I had also flagged this one that I think as currently mapped out, it doesn't fully, to my eye, conform to the required elements of a village center. Both in terms of the walkability, but also the historic, business and civic center kind of component. So I sort of liked Janet's suggestions for how maybe one, but I also I appreciate the conversation around, well, if it's not that, what might it be? In terms of recreation. Anyway, it's a bit of a conundrum.
And that, I kind of want to keep moving, because the board needs to get through this as much as we can. Do you have a quick comment?
If you don't mind, on Killington, there are a couple of points to keep in mind. One is that nobody talks about it, but that Killington relies on the Rutland wastewater treatment plant. And the expansion of that area will add to what is already the wastewater treatment plant that overflows and has the most problems. In terms of the historical issues around Killington, there have been issues in Act 250 having to do with the transportation and the other regional planning commissions. And so exempting from Act 250 and exempting from the larger review on transportation has been an issue. And my experience on the Regional Planning Commission is that this is a different community from any other in Rutland County because in general, you're not dealing so much with a town as you're dealing with corporations. And those corporations have changed over time, but they're very demanding and heavy-handed. And we have had the room filled with Killington corporate people at times. And so I appreciate very much the discussion you're having, and I think you're on the right track. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it okay to move on, board members? Mendon, more depth again. Middletown Springs, no changes. Or, well, I guess there is an extension, but it looks good because it includes whole parcels. Mount Holly, there's an extension to the east and west of the legacy Belmont Village Center. The proposed Mount Holly Village Center includes the post office and elementary school, as well as a few residential properties. It is not clear if any of the structures are historic and whether the area conforms to a traditional historic central business and civic center. As a second and newly proposed village center within the town, if growth is envisioned here, consider mapping as transition infill. Don't know. It didn't seem to meet the historic kind of description of a village center.
I gotta look at the map.
Okay.
I felt it was fine, but then, I was reading your comments and that made me think twice.
Mhm.
Is that the northern one or the legacy one?
Yeah, I think it's the northern one.
I think that's what you were referring to, not the legacy one, but
Yeah.
the new one.
Do you want to look now or do you want to?
I'm
do
looking,
that?
I'm looking real quick
Can we-
right
okay.
now.
Can we look at it now?
Sure. Let me stop sharing and Alex can share his.
Or I can share mine.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Well, Alex, are you gonna drop a figure? No?
No,
Okay.
Sarah's got the map up. She can go there.
Well, I was gonna use Google to do a site visit.
Right. Right.
Well, this is a tiny sort of hamlet area. I mean,
This is not this, which one is this? This is not the Belmont one.
This is the new one to the north.
Okay, yeah,
Belmont being the legacy one.
yeah,
Your comments were about the new one, I think, right?
Yeah.
To the north,
Yeah.
which is where Sarah is.
okay, just double checking. So it's got the school,
School and town office.
yeah,
Anytime, and the post office. I mean, anytime I see that level of civic institutions, I think it's a village center. I'm done. I don't need to know anymore. And it's what they've mapped is so small
mhm,
that
And
I don't
there's
want to
no
quit. I don't want to
village area
quibble with
around
it. I just want to give it to them and leave it at that.
agreed.
okay. Oops. You good with that, Brooke and Kirsten?
I hadn't flagged that one with any questions myself.
Okay.
Yep.
Mount Tabor. It would be the only village center in Mount Tabor. It abuts the Danby Village Center. Pollitt. Consider including whole parcels again to provide depth. Pittsford. Consider adding depth. East Pulteney, no change. Proctor, no change. Rutland Town. New proposed center, Rutland Village Center. Encompassing a mix of residential, commercial, and town hall with sidewalks on both sides. Sounds like good village center to me. Shrewsbury, 2 new centers are proposed. No issues there. Sudbury, proposed to be expanded to vacant land to the southeast. Explain why this expansion is proposed versus an expansion to the north encompassing existing historic houses. Maybe both. I don't know. Just encouraging a little more expansiveness here. Tinmouth, no change. 3 village centers are proposed in Wallingford. No change is proposed to the South Wallingford Village Center. No change to the East Wallingford Village Center. and no change to the legacy. Consider expanding the legacy center laterally to include more parcels, adding breadth to the center with some interconnecting streets. Anybody have any thoughts on that? Okay,
Can I just ask a
Wells?
quick clarifying question?
Yeah.
Are all three Wallingford legacy centers?
yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you for confirming.
Sorry, I thought I was sharing. Let me share. Wait. Hold on. Just a sec. Wells, consider expanding. Oh, West Haven. This would be West Haven's only. I am suggesting they be a little more expansive to include some civic assets. West Rutland. Expansion to include some more mixed use areas. Sounds good. Okay, ready to go to planned growth areas?
Yep.
Brandon. Consider adding depth to include whole parcels rather than limiting the boundary to the mapped sewer service area.
Is there municipal water in that whole area?
You check while you're there.
Well,
Matt.
recognizing that, I wasn't sure if you'd done anything else other than.
I had a comment on Brandon's planned growth area.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to look, because I gave you these comments and you gave me a response, and so, well, yeah, so my comment was, that north of the downtown along Route 7, might be better as a transition infill along Route 7. An enterprise for the industrial park, as opposed to having that all be planned growth. Any thoughts on that, Janet?
You said I responded, what I say?
How much did you say?
I can't remember.
He said that the boundaries are largely coincident with the map sewer service area, which I don't disagree with.
So
Yeah.
I'll go back to what you had said just 5 minutes ago, which is in terms of that paternalistic side from, unless there's a good reason for it.
Yeah.
And I really don't see that much of a difference. I do like the idea of adding depth to it and adding whole parcels. Under the planned growth area, you have to have municipal water or sewer within that area, and it is all within a water service area as well as. So I think what your concern was, they've limited it to the sewer service area. They don't necessarily have to.
Right.
And so I think that they could square off some things to provide some depth and some connectivity between these sort of spread out different parts. It'd be nice to see some internal connections.
Yeah, it just seemed a little odd to me that they availed themselves of a transition infill area on the northeast side of the planned growth area. But didn't do the same along Route 7 on the northwest side. And there, I believe there's an industrial park that they reached out and tried to capture. And those feel more like enterprise areas to me than areas that are going to be planned growth. But yeah, I'm not married to that. That was just trying to avoid the sprawliness factor.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I noted is that one flood hazard intrusion is treated as rural conservation and another as rural general. And I don't know why they would treat them differently in the same town.
Yep.
And then finally, they have a little leg on the southeast end that they're calling village area, because I think it's outside of the sewer service. it seems ridiculously narrow and
Right, just bump out
just bump out the,
the plant growth area.
Right, and it-
Envelop it.
I'm looking at the map, at least according to the map, there's water there, so
so
why not?
I'll note that.
Just to back up on the Brandon with
Yeah.
the flood, the river corridor, they have flood hazard, they have river corridor bylaws.
Right, but
That's why.
but the map shows Stephanie one river corridor as rural conservation and the other one as rural
General.
general. So I'm just asking, why are they treating them differently
Oh, okay.
on the map? So,
Well, I think they have
In the
another
rural
one shown as
categories.
village area,
oh, they do?
just south of the downtown.
Okay.
There's a
Oh,
a slice.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's not, yeah, rural general, it was village area, sorry, yeah, yes.
But so I think that speaks to Stephanie's point, is that in municipalities that have river corridor bylaws and flood hazard, you don't need to have it be rural conservation within the corridor area. You can have it be
So why not include this as rural?
the area to the northeast.
Well, and why make it village area and not planned growth area?
That I don't understand. Yes, that part is confusing to me. It seems like if they have the right regulatory structure, as Stephanie mentioned, it's weird to have a village area with planned growth on either side of it.
Okay. All right, should we move on to Castleton?
Kirsten's got hand up.
I just
Oh, sorry.
quickly footnote that I had noted the same thing about Brandon. The village area extending along Route 7 was, linear and I had similar comments to you, Janet, so thank you.
Castleton. Very narrow band of growth area, consider including whole parcels. We've kind of already talked about this. And then there was a band of village area proposed along a FEMA mapped flood hazard. Consider mapping it as rural conservation instead. Sort of this separate. Fairhaven. Seems like they could extend that too. I think now that Sarah's pointing out that there is water in these areas. So they could be more expansive, but also some mapped wetlands are excluded from the planned growth area while others are not. Some flood hazard and corridor areas are excluded while others are excluded as rural conservation, while others as rural general. Consider consistent mapping of these exclusions. Pittsford. Consider including whole parcels. Pulteney,
So
yes.
back to Fairhaven for a minute. Should we be noting throughout here the municipalities that don't have both zoning and subdivision bylaws yet? I think Fairhaven falls into that category. It's in progress.
Right, and it's noted elsewhere. I don't think we need to,
Say something here. Okay.
I mean, we've already noted it.
I think when you're reviewing the downtown,
Yeah.
right?
Is it an explicit requirement of planned growth areas? Can't
No.
remember. To have subdivision?
Oh, I think so, yeah.
Hang on.
I think it is.
Yeah.
When
It's very odd that it's not for a village center, but it is for the planned growth area around the village
Yeah.
center.
Pittsford, consider including whole parcels. Pulteney, consider including whole parcels. And consider expanding into what's currently proposed as village area. Proctor, consider including larger parcels that have frontage in the sewer service area. yeah, Proctor. Rutland City. It's an explanation of how large areas within the mapped plan growth area extent that currently exhibit strip style auto-oriented and pedestrian unfriendly development meet smart growth principles is needed.
Is it for a planned
Or
growth
plan
area?
area, I think so.
So you need to have complete streets,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
I don't know that you need to have the rest of that. And again, it's awkward in Rutland City because what other designation would be proper, right? You can't put any of it in rural general. I suppose you could put it
Put it
in
in
transition infill.
I mean, they probably do have,
Are you talking about the planned growth that's within the legacy area?
no, I'm talking about the stuff where all the car dealerships are in the,
Okay.
before you get to the town,
Yeah,
right?
So the requirement in,
Oh, wait, no,
Stack-
northwest corner. Wait,
right,
wait,
which
wait, wait,
is
wait.
within the
Sorry.
legacy area, I think.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, wait. This includes a strip along Main Street from Clover Street and the strip along North Main from the river corridor to the northerly municipal boundary, and the strip along Woodstock Avenue. Sorry, I was wrong. These are not part of the legacy area.
You're
right.
talking
They're
about-
well outside of the
Yeah.
legacy area.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's-
so I think it's an open question as to whether there should be more transition infill along some of those corridors outside of the legacy area. That, I think that was your point, right? And it is interesting that when you get out of the city into Rutland town on, is it all of the approaches?
Mhm.
There's transition infill. Right? There's orange on every side coming out of the city. So there's, I guess it's an open question as to whether some of those corridors deserve to be transition infill within the city.
Mhm.
I would just say that remembering the housing targets and that Rutland City is supposed to take 50% of the housing target.
Yeah.
55.
So more than 50%. So I think in terms of having, if they want to go for planned growth and have it in more areas and recognize that they are going to have to observe and comply with complete street principles and the like, so be it.
Yeah, I think I agree with Sarah, Janet, that when I look at the statutory requirement again, the focus is on complete streets,
Right.
not whether
not-
there's a bunch of car dealerships and
Right, so do they meet the complete streets thing? Is it complete
It
streets
says
or smart roads?
The area is served by planned or existing transportation infrastructure that conforms with complete street principles as described in 19 VSA chapter 24 and establishes pedestrian access directly to the downtown. Planned transportation infrastructure includes those investments included in the municipality's capital improvement program.
So here's what I was referencing is the planned growth areas description. These areas should generally meet the smart growth principles definition in chapter 139 of this title. So I'm just asking that they explain that
Right.
that they have that.
Well, I was just gonna say, and you could even ask for additional information about complete streets and Rutland City's capital improvement program, and how they're going to accommodate it.
it also says generally meet the smart growth principles. I think the moment that the statutory construction throws that word in, like we have to give broad deference or at least flexibility.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to look at those areas on the map that you referred to see if they have sidewalks and all of that jazz.
Yeah, I'm not, if there are no, which area were you referencing car dealerships?
No, I was wrong, Stephanie.
Oh, okay.
I was south and I was,
You were in Rutland Town.
yeah, and I meant to be north here
Okay.
and Woodstock Ave and up near the northern border.
So Woodstock Ave basically ends at the high school.
Yep.
And we have sidewalks everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So I think we have complete streets to a large degree, which meets the statutory construction, and then it's just that general smart growth, and I'm willing to, sorry to be back and forth on this, but I'm willing to give them the benefit of the doubt on the planned growth area designation versus transition and fill.
All right, we move on.
Yes.
Wallingford. The planned growth area is proposed around the village center. And an extension to the south is proposed that appears to encompass a suburban style, single family residential subdivision lacking pedestrian connection to the legacy center. I'm suggesting not including it.
Or having it be, it looks like this is one of those areas that's ringed by the planned or the village area. Looks like it's a little bit of both. Planned
Right.
growth and village area.
Right, I deal with the village area separately.
Right, but maybe that's a planned growth area that really wants to be a village area or a transition area.
I
There was
just-
Would
pretty,
have been a connection between the north and south part of that planned growth area in Wallingford, except that there's a cemetery
yeah,
in the
It's-
middle of it.
I definitely see the
Right,
cemetery.
there's a cemetery,
Yeah.
but there's also no sidewalk and it's a little dicey.
Yeah, that's
To
the part
walk
that,
it. But the other thing is that's a single family residential subdivision. I don't see how it's going, is the idea that those are gonna be raised and people are gonna be building or subdividing it further and building more housing there.
Well,
It seems,
it looks like from the plan or from the village area behind it, that there is an opportunity in the inward parcel. So I think either transition area or village area might be appropriate, but I would agree that's not planned growth.
yeah, I'm in the same place. It's awfully separate. The issue is, part of it is the sewer service area extends down there.
I just don't see that those mid-century, mid-20th century, single family homes or mid to late are going to be changed.
Redeveloped
Yeah,
or what have you.
redeveloped.
Yeah, and I think my issue is more with the disconnect and the lack of a complete streets.
Yeah, it was
Network between the two, unless there
Yeah.
was some beautiful multi-use path through the cemetery where you got to
Right.
visit your loved ones and be
Right.
connected to the neighborhood. to the
right,
north.
which is possible. And you could include the cemetery in the plan. Well, maybe not. Never mind. Take that back. Okay,
It is a growth industry. We're all going to be housed there someday.
yeah. All
Yeah.
right, let's move on to West Pollitt, where we are asking them to consider coal parcels for depth, and West Rutland, same thing, coal parcels. All right. Village area. This is where I think I had the most, other than Killington's Village Center, I found most challenging were these village areas that were proposed outside of planned growth areas. And to me, I think that's not what village areas were intended for. They were intended to surround or be, connected to a village center or a downtown, I guess, but that they also, using them this way, I think, is an example of, sprawl development. So,
But the problem with that philosophy is that sewer service areas are limited and planned growth areas are limited to the areas served by municipal water and sewer. So that in communities that have very
just
narrow,
water or,
in communities that have very narrow bands of service for water or sewer, they could have a planned growth area and want to expand beyond it in a way that wouldn't necessarily be sprawl, but because of the constraints of the way this mapping methodology is, it can't be planned growth area. The only option if they want to grow into those areas just outside the sewer or water service.
Well, I looked
is
at the
village area.
underlying zoning as well.
Right,
The zoning does not reflect growth. It's 1 and 2 acre zoning.
yeah, and I imagine that depends on the municipality,
And
right?
I looked at Fairhaven and I looked at Castleton. It's 1 to 2 acre zone. So
Maybe we should look at one of these. Which one are you most aggrieved about, or not aggrieved? That's a terrible term. Which one is the best example of what you're talking
I
about?
think Fairhaven.
Okay, let's look at that.
Let me stop sharing.
You want me to share?
Sure.
Because I think Castleton's a really good example too, but we can start with Fairhaven. Which village area are you referring to in Fairhaven? That bit to the north or the bit to the south or?
Both. And, oh, well. Yeah. Both. I
Okay,
mean, I don't understand why they all can't be just planned growth.
because they're not served by water and sewer. It's that
Um,
simple.
Well,
Doesn't need to be both.
But it has to be one
right.
or the other.
right.
And I think it's neither in those places, is it not?
Let's see. Look up north a little bit, Sarah. Here they are. Oh, but it's
It's
on the other side of the street. Why isn't that served?
Well, no, on the, well, yes, so on the north side, that area to the east of the road looks like there's a water line, right?
And that
There's-
parcel to the north too.
Well, no, the parcel, well anyways, the parcel further to the north on the west side, the water line ends before you
Right, but
get.
it's there. No, it's there. It's serving it.
If that's what the yellow dotted lines mean, I've never quite understood all of those, but if you go to the south example. The southerly example, I think you'll see the services end. And they're looking to see more development in those
So-
areas.
So extend the line and come back and call it planned growth.
Gotcha.
And it has her.
Oh, well, can you zoom out a little?
Yep.
There's some other problems with Fairhaven on the east side along the road that goes to Blissville and along the road that goes to Castleton. And I don't see that those are connected to a center in a way that would warrant those to be village area either.
Yeah, and I can't argue with you on that case. They seem very disconnected from either Fairhaven Center or
Castleton.
Castleton Center. And it appears that there's something going on, south of Castleton at that four-way intersection, the
That's
Blissville
yeah.
area. That
Right.
either warrants it becoming a center
Center, yeah.
or, yeah,
Maybe a hamlet.
I think I suggested it become a center further in the document here.
yeah, the problem, of course, is that I don't think it has any civic underpinnings,
Oh,
right?
maybe-
It's just a
maybe it's
residential
on that.
crossroads. It's more of a hamlet.
Yeah. So.
But, Castleton and Fairhaven have to grow somewhere, and it appears this was this was the place they wanted it to
Well, I mean, there's a lot
grow.
of growth in there and other places there too, if they expand their growth area, like we're suggesting.
So I don't think
So-
it's necessarily a punitive thing. I think there's the ability to look to more wholly incorporate it in either the village centers or the planned growth areas.
Right.
And also instead of capturing some of these purely residential subdivisions in village area, have them be more of a transition area until they're ready to come in and ask for future land use map change to upgrade to planned growth or something of that nature.
Yeah, the dilemma is, and Kirsten's got her hand up, the dilemma with transition infill is that per statute, you have to have water, sewer, or the plan to put municipal water and sewer. And I envision this blissful area is not, Castleton has no intent of adding municipal water and sewer there. So maybe it does make more sense as a village center, which doesn't require that. And then you could have potentially some village area around the village center. Tough not to crack that one.
Just happened. All right, can you stop sharing? I will share again.
And you've got hands up.
Go ahead, Kirsten.
So I had what I think is a similar kind of question about village area connectivity in the case of Poultney, which I know we've gone by, but if we're getting into kind of a discussion of this element of these maps, I would like to share it for a moment and just kind of get everyone's input on it. That's okay.
Poultney, no, we haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I thought we'd gone past that.
No, we just started talking about village areas in general.
Okay. Sorry, I guess I was remembering village center.
So we'll get there.
I'll hold the question then.
Okay, and Nat, is it okay if we just keep going?
One comment, that area you
Yeah.
were looking at in Fairhaven, north of Airport
Yeah.
Road, was today approved for a 100 acre, 20 megawatt solar facility. So that's probably why they aren't interested in expanding up there.
Okay, thanks. So, dealing with these individually, Benson, consider extending to whole smaller parcels that are walkable from the center rather than bisecting them. And I just say smaller because there are some very large parcels there as well. Brandon, consider adding depth to the Forestdale Village area by extending to whole parcels. Castleton, that's where I saw the 1 and 2 acre zoning with those village areas. And here is where I said, for example, Blissville, if it were rezoned to allow mixed uses and higher density, a village center could be mapped and an area surrounding this could be village area. Kirsten?
So, up on Benson, I think that's another community where the subdivision bylaw is pending or was. So I don't know if
Don't
we
need
would,
it, village
for
area.
village area.
You don't need it. Right?
Correct, yes.
Well,
Village areas don't
village-
require regulations.
Right, village areas.
Correct. And the other thing too, that I just note is, I've seen this in, sometimes it's different in different RPCs. But as long as they have it, if they are amending it, that's fine, but if they already have it, even if it's pending.
I take it back. I'm sorry, Kirsten. I'm looking at the statutory reference. It does, you're right. It does require regulations. It's village centers that don't require them.
Bylaws.
Yeah, the municipality has adopted bylaws and regulations in accordance with 44, 14, 18, and 42. So Kirsten's right. That's a factor.
Which one?
Benson.
Benson, Pittsford, and Fairhaven.
But do they have subdivision bylaws and they're simply amending them, or is this like a first?
Fairhaven and Pittsford are looking to amend. Benson.
Well, we can have Janet double check that.
I think Benson has unified,
Oh, it does?
a unified
Oh,
development
okay. I
ordinance.
thought I did check, yeah. Benson has unified, Kirsten.
Well,
Okay,
when I looked at our list and when I looked at the plan submittal, there was a question about the status, and my takeaway was that there was some new bylaw or bylaw update that was pending.
and Benson?
Yeah, and Benson and Pittsford, the status was, I had a sort of a question mark, and
Pittsford I
then the
know
Fairhaven
about.
one was pending.
Yeah, Pittsford
Yeah.
and Fairhaven I know about. Benson, What did you just find, Stephanie?
I'm
You
just
just
showing
found-
that they have unified.
So that means they have subdivision,
Mhm.
probably.
Unified development ordinance.
Are you looking on your website or?
I'm just looking at an internal spreadsheet that we use to
Okay.
track town status on a variety of different things.
I'll confirm it.
Yeah,
Um,
and I would
okay.
take a look at our list as well. Like our
I
list of
would, I'm not gonna go by Act 250's program list. I'm gonna go by whether there are subdivision bylaws in place. That's because it's not whether it's a 1 acre or 10 acre town, it's whether they have subdivision bylaws.
I'm showing that they have a 2018 zoning and subdivision bylaw.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
So I think that's just good to know is it might be on the TRNB list or something of that nature that they're amending it. But as long as they already have it in place, they're good.
Okay, so, where were we?
Castleton,
Brooke had her hand up. Oh, she.
Brooke, oh, no, you're not needing to, okay. Are we done with Castleton?
yeah,
Okay. Fairhaven, we've kind of already discussed.
yeah.
Mendon looks fine. Pollitt, consider adding depth. And Pittsford, consider expanding the proposed planned growth area and eliminating the proposed village areas. We discussed that earlier. Pulteney, consider expanding the planned growth areas around the downtown center rather than proposing village areas north and south of the planned growth area and downtown center. Kirsten, you said you had a comment on Pulteney?
Yeah, it was that the village areas are in some places either distant or disconnected from the village center. And the sewer service area is limited. So I just wasn't sure about the location and the connectivity, but I think it's similar to your observation, Janet.
Okay,
Yeah, I would second that observation from Kirsten that, Pulteney has a planned growth area and then a much larger village area, especially to the south,
Well,
that
and I think
seems
it's supposed to be
disconnected.
walkable, right, to the village center area? And I
Yeah.
just think, yeah, the connectivity and the walkability, I think, would be,
There is a rail trail that does connect the southern village area that's mapped in Pulteney to the center.
Pulteney doesn't have river corridor bylaws, and the Pulteney River is what's cutting that
Mhm.
southern connection.
Yeah.
Yep, so that helps explain the disconnect in terms of the mapping, but in terms of the physical connection, I still have your same concern, Kirsten, about the connectivity, even with the rail trail. Yeah. Although I applaud them for trying to map more areas as potential future neighborhoods to grow their center, and the village area, I think, is intended to do that according to statute, right? The statute says village areas include existing village center designations, but this area is larger than the village center designation. Yeah, I guess it doesn't say it the way I wanted it to in statute, but
Janet, you were suggesting maybe more planned growth area?
yeah, up above. Can you turn the infrastructure back on?
I think the rub, if you're gonna try to push a village area into planned growth, is the water sewer.
Yeah, that's what we were just looking at, Stephanie, on the screen. So it looks like there is a southerly extension of water. So that area, if you put your cursor here, this area could be eligible.
Right,
This looks like sewer.
And
Yellow
there's,
is the sewer, I think.
but the whole area to the south of that, that's much larger, would not be, as Stephanie said,
Right.
would not qualify as a planned growth area.
right, but this area here.
Could.
Yeah, between whatever road that is, to the northeast and the one that the north-south there. Okay,
Well,
Not sure.
yeah, maybe some of that village area, but maybe not the full extent of it. I don't know.
right, right.
So Jenna, we're way behind schedule, I think,
Yeah, I
at this point, so I think we gotta make a call about whether we're gonna continue plotting or whether we're gonna put.
Well, we're almost done because this is it. The rest is pretty straightforward. So Wallingford, there's just some missing data. So enterprise areas, we had one comment on the Omea parcel. It's very large and there are some enveloped residential lots. So we wonder if maybe the whole thing might not be mapped as enterprise.
And this is in Pittsburgh, yep.
Yeah. Transition infill. Just set a suggestion to address what strategies would be proposed to get these transitioned. Resource-based recreation. I wonder about Killington on this in particular. I don't think that the stuff to the east of Killington Road is really resource-based recreation. I think it's more rural residential that's envisioned there, and think that it should just be called rural general. And then there's a golf course to the northwest. And I wondered if some of that should be just rural general as well.
Yeah, ski areas are really a hard nut to crack, right? Because there definitely are large expanses of residential areas. But they often don't feel like traditional rural residential areas that I think rural general was aiming for. But I agree with you, it seems like the definition of resource-based recreation area wasn't meant to include large residential areas.
Right, I think there are people that could live in that eastern portion of Killington that aren't there only associated with the ski slope. I mean,
Could or are.
there could be, and there probably are a few people that live there full time that might work in Rutland, I don't know. In any case, just a suggestion. So in terms of the rural general, the way that the mapping ended up, it left a lot of very small pockets of rural general here and there with no depth to them at all. And isolated pockets of rural areas. And the suggestion is to subsume those into the larger adjacent rural category. And then there are some slivers within the river corridor and flood hazard areas. And in particular, whether we might just call those rural conservation because they're in the flood hazard and river corridor just generally, instead of some being rural conservation and some not.
Can I ask a quick question about rural general?
Yeah.
So where the mapping identifies rural general around existing buildings, those circles.
Yep.
Is there any,
300-foot
Yeah.
buffer on, yeah,
yeah. So, is that anything that would be that's just how it will remain on the mapping and no
No, what I'm suggesting is
smoothing
no,
it.
no,
Smoothing it
that's what I'm
out.
suggesting is.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm
Don't
understanding.
leave these isolated pockets that don't have planning,
Okay, so that's what you're
implications.
referring to in
Yeah.
part. Okay, thank
In
you.
part, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And same question, or same, suggestion relative to the rural conservation and the river corridor flood hazard. So. Then there's the question of whether conservation areas help meet the 30 by 30, 50 by 50 goals. I think the plan addresses that. There was a comment about rewording that section to suggest that these are goals, they're not mandatory policy. That's just a suggestion. And then finally, tier 1B requests, we are noting that Fairhaven needs to adopt subdivision regulations, Killington needs to adopt subdivision regulations, and Pittsford needs to adopt subdivision regulations, as does Proctor. And then I'm suggesting that Rutland City request tier 1B status so that there's no lag. As soon as the board approves the plan, housing projects with up to 50 units could be eligible for exemption. And it wouldn't have to wait until they got their tier 1A approval.
They addressed that at the meeting. Do you remember that they felt that there
I know.
was some diminishment of the number of units, the exemption under tier 1B than what the interim exemptions provide?
The interim,
Their rationale.
the interim exemptions run out this July 1st, correct?
No, they don't.
Next July 1st?
Not even
I
then, I
think,
don't think. I think
I think
it's,
it's
yeah, they're in place for a while.
28 or I'll have to look now, Sarah.
So it's not necessary,
As long as it, right.
but does it include the entire area that they're proposing for tier 1B? I
Well,
mean,
that's,
that they want for tier 1A?
yeah, I think that's a good question, but let me look at our own website with the interim exemption
Okay.
map.
Because I was just, if it was this coming July 1st, I think it's this July 1st, the road rule and a bunch of other things come into effect, but if it was this July 1st, I think that they might be better doing tier 1B then, but
Yeah, most of the interim exemptions are through January 1st, 2027.
okay.
And if I go to our map, it's the buffer, I think, that covers a lot of what they want.
And while Alex is looking for that, I just want to point out where the underlying downtown and village centers and planned growth in village areas do not meet statutory standards for the proposed FLU area or the requisite center or neighborhood designation. Consider revisions as described in Part E above. And that's that. So we'll look at. You want to share that, Alex?
Sure.
Oh.
So under the interim exemptions, you get a
You get the whole thing.
half mile or something like that from
Yeah,
the
you get the
downtown,
whole
and
thing. You move into the town, yeah.
so that's their rationale, I guess, for
Okay.
wanting to just sit
So
tight.
I'll just nix that
Okay.
from the,
Janet, were you looking for action on this today?
no,
Okay.
we're gonna have to meet on Thursday.
Go ahead, Kirsten. Janet's typing.
Thanks.
So I just had one other discussion point, and it has to do with the RPC's certification concerning the municipal flood hazard and river corridor bylaws that the RPC confirmed has in place, but it wasn't clear to me, and maybe this is sort of nitpicking some of the detail, but I just would want to ensure that the standards are met with those bylaws. And I don't know if the RPC has done that or considered, confirming that the standards in, I think it's sections 755B and 1428B have been met, or those municipal flood hazard and recorder bylaws that were certified. I don't know if others thought about that or think that we should be looking at that level of detail.
I will not be looking at that and determining myself whether they meet those standards. No way. We would never get this done.
Well, but I'm
We had
asking,
to look at all of those
So
regulations to
part
determine
of
whether they
it,
met.
Kirsten, to
standards.
answer, if this is an application from the RPC,
Mhm.
and which has professional qualified planning staff and is an independent organization. And so if this is coming from them as saying that, yep, they had this, I'm going to trust that they have it.
And that it meets the standard. Like that's because it wasn't
So
presented
that's what
as
they're,
such.
that's
So-
what they're certifying. Those resolutions, that's what's being certified.
Okay, that's your
that-
interpretation of it.
That's what I'm going with.
Okay.
So there's an attachment once we reach the adopted phase of this process for municipal certifications. I just wanted to throw out there that in the application form, it appears that there's a municipal certification from the RPC. And is there also a municipal certification from the municipality seeking?
Yes, a resolution.
Okay, so are there templates for those
Yes.
available? Okay. Are they on the website?
I think,
Back to
Bapton
Keeper
has
copy.
them, yeah, so
Okay.
Devin can find it for you, I'm sure. Okay, so I'm gonna be plugging this into the response shell. And I will get it back out to you as soon as possible. Can we move on to Brooks' appeals report?
Sorry.
Sorry, Brooke, I took a lot of your time.
It's okay. I think probably the easiest thing for me to do is just sort of look over. I've reorganized things and let me just acquaint you with it. You'll have to look at a red line strikeout version if you want to focus on just the changes, but there's a lot that's been changed. So let me just,
Actually, Brooke, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we've been going for almost 3 hours, and I think I need to go visit the restroom. So can we take a 10-minute break?
Can I make it 5 because we have to drive back?
Yes, we can make it 5. Is that okay?
sure.
You can put your thing up on screen while we're,
Great.
Are y'all done with our portion?
yeah,
You're moving
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Perfect.
Yeah, I'm going up to Burlington
Before?
because I have to be in Montpelier in the morning.
Oh. So you
And I
have
don't want to
travel
drive in the morning to Montpelier. I don't want to drive home an hour now and then go up to Montpelier in the morning.
too. I think we're supposed to be clear for a bit for weather. Oh,
That was a long,
Yes, let's discuss at another time, how we're gonna do this next go around.
and it's impressive time for you, you know.
So while we're waiting for Brooke to return, um. Is there a revised draft that we're all supposed to be looking at?
I don't know. I looked over the weekend, over the rules, the board rules of appellate procedure.
Yeah.
So that's where I was focused over the weekend. Hi, Brooke.
Okay.
We were just discussing what I read over the weekend were the board rules of appellate procedure as drafted. Is what you're showing on screen, is that different from what was posted? Okay. Is it
Yeah.
redlined?
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
version 4. I'm gonna just
Okay,
buzz through
great.
really quick.
Okay,
Okay, so what I've done is I have simplified, pared down, try to remove duplicative language, taken the statutory charge out, put it in the appendix, just have the summary discussion about it. And then we go into the stakeholder meeting process first before we go into, I inserted that section from later on. And then we go into Act 250 background, Superior Court, A&R, housing appeals, that debate between the court and the board. And then we go into the appeals board model, trying to describe the individual elements of it, going into resources needed, and then the recommendations. The one thing I haven't done as much work on is the recommendations that are corrected. They could still use a little bit of just better writing improvement. So, just to give you an eyeballs view, there's a lot of detail I took out about how this all led up to 181. Then we go into just defining what this study is and the statutory charge in a summary fashion. Took out, again, that charge, but we put it in the appendix. So that's disappeared. That's why it's all like that.
Yeah.
Then we have that meeting process. That isn't all that changed. Just made a notation about the ombuds, environmental justice permit specialist. That's in the appendix as well. We then go into the history section. And I have rewritten the entire, pretty much the environmental board section to better describe. I wanted to explain how the board operated because it's important, because now we're kind of copying what they did to a very large extent. So I thought we would get rid of some of the other stuff that just wasn't really helpful and really focus in on what was important to know about the board. So, and some of this, it has footnotes and everything. A lot of it's plagiarized from Act 47's.
well, it's not plagiarized if you properly cited it, so.
appropriated.
I need to get that in before my footnotes, but this section is from one of the predecessor reports. So it sort of set the stage for everything, and it's
Yes.
a very important section. So I know it's
Yeah.
long, but it's important. So then we go into, wait a minute. This is lagging because there's a lot of changes here. Okay. So after we talk about the environmental board and how it worked and everything, and that they took appeals, then we go into the natural resources board when things switched over to the court. Come on. And then the establishment of us. You've seen this stuff before. There's some changes, corrections from various people. And then we get into that whole section, and I'm going to buzz through here because nothing much has changed in here. It's all about how the court works. If I can make this go quickly, there's some corrections, but you can see red line strikeout, so you don't have to reread everything. A&R is pretty much the same. And then housing appeals, we did quite a bit of work in here. We had to take out the hybrid standard from everything that we were talking about. Then we get that board debate. There's some corrections and wording changes. It all makes better sense now. And then we have the board model. Now, I didn't put the charts in here because, frankly, they're just incredibly duplicative now because, you know, it's like everybody's getting de novo except for the on the record, you know, that kind of thing. Nobody gets discovery. And so I thought it was really easier to do this section really as, and, you know, just explain a little paragraph on each aspect that was important to know about it. This disposition guidelines. So here are your red flags. We still need to figure that out this week. But I'd like to do, you know, I've been trying to figure out on a piece of paper how much time, how much extra time. So I'll have a better idea for you in a day or two on what the numbers are I'm recommending. I know everyone's looking for a low number. And then the next section talks about the resources needed. It's very bare bones. I put a placeholder kind of sentence in here and then got the right charts in the right order for the two different scenarios with the cost differentials. And then the other red flag section I still need help with is the timeline. Do we want to put this visual in here at all? Do we want to put it into an appendix? Do we want to change it?
It should be in an appendix and it should be on a singular page. I don't think that we have to include it. I think we can just explain, you know, the tasks that we have. You know, we have 11 regional plans to approve and follow both the pre-application and final application. We have, you know, like, I think you could just list those things. And
I have it in like 2 or 3 different places, so I gotta kind of try to pull the language together so I'm not like repeating the exact same way of saying it. So that needs a little bit of work.
Does anybody think that we need to have the figure?
I acknowledge that it took some work to create and it conveys some information, and if it's easy enough to throw in an appendix, then I think we ought to do that. It's there, why not take advantage of it?
Okay.
And I remain available to put it in black and white, put the additional mid 2026 through 2027 EJ item that Janet had mentioned last week, and also work with Sarah on refinement of the tier 1A information. So it's not, it needs some cleanup, and I'm available to do that if the board wants to include it.
Also,
So,
the
but we don't
last-
need to include it just because just because we have it. I mean, if
Yeah.
it's felt that
Well,
it's
so
better
that's,
conveyed.
that's a question for you, Kirsten. I think you helped create it, and I was trying to give you some deference, having done some work on it. If you're not married to it being in there, then I'm fine not having it in there at all. It'll help. That'll help get this to the end, the finish line faster by deleting it.
Well, it won't take long to clean it up. It was something that someone had specifically asked for at one point. So I guess from my end, I'm happy sort of deferring to Brooke if she thinks there's usefulness in the board. I'm not wed to it. Happy to clean it up, but I'm not wed to it. If we wanted to convert this to text, that's fine.
Yeah, I have no problem putting it in the appendix. I don't think it needs to be in the report. I do think that it's a helpful visual, I think.
Yeah.
It does show, oh wow, there's all these things that start and stop. Now, Janet, that was the one area of your notes I wasn't really clear on what to do with. Right?
Mhm.
Because it's a picture and stuff. So maybe I'll look over those and the mapping with Kirsten, or her chart, and we'll figure out if we can do something. In a sense, the one thing that bothers me about it is it looks like we're not doing anything for the second half of 2027.
Right.
It's like,
Well,
well, why
we
can't
don't
you do it in
really-
the middle of 2027, not 28?
What's the green?
Tier 1As, Bs.
Tier
I
one
mean,
is,
we could be, why is that so compacted?
Should be.
that's
what She was saying that she's gonna
Yeah.
get with me on.
Oh, okay. 'Cause
I think that
that's
will
probably
be
against
spread
our
out.
town.
I think that will be
And
spread
I
out.
also
through-
think that the last two regional plans are gonna dip into 2027 a little bit. But yeah, so and the community engagement stuff will take up the latter part of 2026 and the first part of 2027. It's true. Yeah, I don't know.
Let's
We can
move
just
on.
delete
Yeah,
it. If
let's-
you want
Sounds
to
good.
delete it, it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. And then we have the recommendations. You guys can see them. They're the same. They're just improved. You're not looking at a red line version. And then we have the rules. I haven't changed anything in the rules, I don't think, since your version. So I will send number 4 to you and have Maddie post it for Thursday's meeting. And maybe we can bring it home. Get it
Okay.
out this week. I
Thanks,
think
Rose.
I've hit everybody's lists. There might be one or two things that I maybe didn't change on your lists, but there was a reason. Or I couldn't read it.
Okay.
Sounds like we'll talk about that Thursday.
All right.
All right, let's see where we are on our agenda. We are half an hour behind schedule for a discussion of appeals and enforcement. We have a motion.
Yeah, I'll make it. The board needs to discuss pending and probable Act 250 appeals and enforcement actions, and to have confidential attorney-client communications on these matters. I move that we find that premature public knowledge of these matters would place the board at a substantial disadvantage, and the board should enter executive session.
Second,
I'll second.
I'll second.
okay, Sarah, thank you. Discussion? None. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
I,
Okay,
Aye.
I think I can just shut this door so we don't have to move. We can just go into the new Teams meeting. So,
Can we do a shared screen for the holding one? Who's running
that's us.
it right
Oh,
now, the meeting?
Where is the shared screen? We are.
any of us can do a shared screen. It doesn't have to be the three of us. It could be
Okay.
anyone.
Oh, okay, but where is it?
Let me get it.
Okay.
Sarah, are you doing it?
My,
Sarah's gonna do it.
Sarah's grabbing it.
Thank
Yep.
you.
well, my connection is not,
Oh,
I can do it.
that should be
Sarah,
one per
that's fine.
task.
Yeah.
okay.
All right,
Pete,
thank
You
you.
guys
Thank you,
can head
Pete.
to executive. Let me get that up.
Okay, we just wait for it to get up.
And then,